All right, y'all, what's going on? It's Combo Breaker 99 back with another post-fight discussion video. All right, y'all. So, yeah, I did get a chance to watch Dana White's Contender Series last night because this was a fight I was looking forward to. Shanelle Dyer trying to make her way to the UFC against Foro. I've seen a little bit of Foro before. I haven't done a lot of research, but I know she's a pretty solid pressure fighter. She has power in both hands and, all around has a good grappling game as well. Decent grappling game, I'll say, and some good striking. And, going into this fight here, I knew it was gonna kind of break even as far as what would go down. It really came down to seeing if Shanelle Dyer was going to use her height and reach in this fight. I did favor Shanelle Dyer in this fight, but man, I mean, you already know, spoiler alert, both fighters got a contract here, but still, there's some questions that I needed to answer with Shanelle Dyer, and a few of them got answered. And the number one thing I'll say is this is why I always said that Chanel wasn't ready for a fight with Dakota. Even to a lesser extent, Paulina Venuska. All right, I'm just being honest. I know Dakota, and Chanel are both in the PFL, but I've always thought that Chanel was a few levels behind her. That's why I didn't want to see that fight as far as to like this big major PFL type of matchup because she was just still a few levels behind Dakota, and not just in number of fights, but I think that Dakota has matured and she's kind of grown and transitioned well with her Muay Thai and her striking, whereas I think that Chanel Dyer is still trying to find her place, and it kind of showed in this fight. I think Chanel Dyer is still working on finding her rhythm and her pacing, and still trying to work out like the type of style she's building in there. Because there were times in this fight I was just looking at her reach and her height. Um, I wouldn't say I can't say advantage because she didn't use it to a full advantage, but her being taller and longer than Carol, I was like, okay, let's see her start sticking that jab out and just start working those front kicks to the face. And she was just really having trouble in that first round finding her range. Like she wasn't pumping the jab out enough again. And that's something I'm always saying. You're a long fighter, pump that jab out. Fight like a tall fighter. It seemed like she was really having trouble finding that timing as far as like the MMA striking pace with the footwork because Chanel was still kind of moving like a Muay Thai fighter, in my opinion, as far as how she was stepping back and she was, just kind of on her little cadence, on her rhythm. Um, so that was kind of keeping her one step behind Carol Foro. And, Carol wasn't really doing anything too spectacular. I know Carol was just putting punches together and, putting a lot of pressure on, but the rhythm that Chanel Dyer was moving at, it was keeping her one step behind. So by the time, she threw her jab and stepped back, Carol was already inside, landing that left hook to the head and to the body. Like, granted, Chanel Dyer was blocking a few of the left hooks up to the head, but I do like how Carol was going low. She was going to the body and pushing Chanel Dyer back, and then she come over the top with the overhand right, and that's where she started hurting her when that overhand right started landing, and then dig into the body. All this was in the first round, so you could really see like Carol Faro, like I said, wasn't doing like anything brand new, but she was sticking to a game plan, and her striking IQ in MMA was much higher because she was throwing to the body, throwing them hard left hooks to the body, and then eventually Chanel Dyer's right hand dropped, and when it dropped, she got dropped with a hard left hook, and not once, but twice. No, not twice, but three times. One time from a left hook, and then she got dropped two times from a right hand. And throughout that round, she was getting hurt. I mean, she got cut pretty bad over the left eye. And then she was eating a lot of shots. There's one point where she was against the cage where I was like, it looked like she had that like body language like she was about to get stopped. But no, she made it through, man. But still, I just saw Carol Ferrell doing a lot of things like Jessica Andrade, where she was, making her power known and just making her pressure known. And you could see Chanel Dyer wasn't used to that. Like Chanel didn't know how to, stand her ground, pivot out, and keep pumping that double jab down the pipe. I think her boxing fundamentals are still kind of off too, because if you go back and look at the Valentina Skatsizi fight, another short pressure fighter was, shooting that jab right up the middle and catching Chanel Dyer right on the chin. And that's another thing too. Like Chanel Dyer is just kind of straight up and down like a Muay Thai fighter. She's not moving her head. She's not that elusive up top. She'll go straight back or side to side, but the head is not moving. So she's getting clocked with these right hands, even in the second round. The second round, again, Carol Foro just putting on a lot of that pressure, and going to that body, forcing Shanelle Dyer back. Shanelle Dyer's output, it went up this round. She was piling up a lot of shots here. She was double jabbing, 1-2. The teep kick was a big part of keeping Carol back in this round. She was putting that teep kick down the pipe, right up the middle to the gut. But she started falling behind again when she let Carol just get inside. And Carol got inside and landed another big right hand and almost buckled and dropped her again. So I just saw, Carol Ferrell's pressure even in the second round kind of taking the round, doing much more damage and, being more significant than Shanelle Dyer's work. But finally going into the third round, Shanelle Dyer, she did pick it up. She had that urgency, like she was looking for a stop, and she started throwing more head kicks out. But still, not a lot of them were set up by the jab. A lot of the stuff wasn't set up by the calf kicks or body kicks. So, Carol Ferrell taking a lot of these shots, coming in and just, still trying to fight to finish. Both fighters were really trying to fight to finish here. So third round, though, I think the output of Carol went down, but Shanelle Dyer, she started picking it up here more, and I think she landed more significant power shots. So I had it 2-1. I had it 2-1 for Carol Ferrell. I think she did the more significant damage, 3 knockdowns in the first round. Just a lot of damage and body shots as well, mixing it up, effective pressure. She just won it all around. So, yeah, definitely won it. I think one judge had it 30-27. But anyways, it didn't matter as far as contracts that night. Dana White, he was pleased. He was really, pleased with the performance of both fighters, which for me, of course, as a fight fan, I was entertained. But when I'm expecting something higher from both fighters, both athletes, I still walk away feeling a little disappointed in that, especially when I'm holding, Shanelle Dyer to a higher standard. I'm going to see her not just go in there and put on a fight of the night and then, win a contract off of losing, but I wanted to see her make this statement. Like we see with Paulina Venuska, like we see with Dakota. Like when you see Dakota, you're like, oh man, like this girl's power is a game changer. This girl's style and the way she uses her height and reach, all of this is a game changer, right? But Chanel's coming in here more so fighting down to the level of her opponent and giving her opponent a lot of chances. Because again, Shanelle Dyer is taller and longer. And with this Muay Thai background, I'm like, all right, start throwing those kicks to the face, start putting that jab down a pipe, tie clinch, do something, make these adjustments. But I didn't really see that. But maybe getting this contract is going to force her to do harder work. You know what I mean? Like really go hard. I mean, I'm not saying she's not now, because she is a decorated athlete outside of MMA. But again, this is MMA, So like I said, I'm holding her to a high standard to make these adjustments because WMMA is getting deep as far as its improvements. And with that being said, when you look at Carol Ferrell, her as well, like Carol Ferrell, I liked her pressure. I like her left hooks to the body, but even her as well, I want to see her not take as many shots because she did get busted up like towards the later part of the fight. I'd say like in the second round, she was eating a lot of shots too. So she needs to make some improvements too because, this Jessica Andrade style has been figured out. So maybe she'll need to force more of a pressure fight, combination style, and grappling moving forward. But it won her to fight 30-27, So if she's able to back fighters up and do this type of damage to the body, because like I said, I don't really see too many women fight with this body strategy. If she keeps that going, she can build off of that. So yeah, she earned her contract. Respect to Carol Ferrell. Shout out to her for real. But yeah, Shanelle Dyer, I mean, yeah, she got hers too. So I mean, respect to her. She got the contract, but coming in here, with this type of performance and seeing a lot of holes in her game and leaky defense, like I said, I don't know if this is really going to benefit her. Let me know in the comment section what y'all think. I know everybody wants to see somebody advance to get to the UFC, but is it really going to be a benefit if that person's not ready? That's my question. And maybe it will. Maybe it will benefit Chanel to get signed like this. I mean, look at Carly Giudice, Crispy Carly, right? She lost her contender series fight against Ernesta Carrascatai. They were kind of in the same position. They put on a banger, a back and forth war. Dana White, he was pleased with it. So he gave both Ernesta and Carly a contract, right? So I know for me, I can kind of question it because, she did lose in this one, but maybe that'll force her to get better, just like it did Carly. Carly came up short, but since then, she's been in the UFC. She's been finishing girls. Her only loss was a really close loss to, I think, Gabby Fernandez. But like I said, since then, she's been finishing everybody else, because it's kind of forced her to get better as a fighter. So maybe Chanel will do the same thing. Maybe she'll link up with, like I said, somebody like Joanna, like Carly linked up with Rose, and you'll see those improvements, because as soon as Carly did that, she started linking up with the right people. You see her improving in the right areas, takedown defense, keeping her range, setting up the power shots, all of that, right? She's been transitioning into a solid MMA striker, not just a banger like she did in her contender series fight. So maybe that'll wake up the same thing in Chanel, even though she lost. Maybe she'll go in there and try to get the right people on her team to just tighten up on those things and change a lot of things as well. That's going to help her make that transition the same way. I think moving forward, though, she's going to really need somebody to help her transition her Muay Thai to MMA striking. Somebody like Joanna. She needs to link with somebody like Joanna, Rose Namajunas, those type of fighters that have that footwork. Well, it's definitely Joanna, because, Joanna coming from Muay Thai background, Valentina, and those fighters, they transition their footwork well as far as getting out of the way and, pivoting out and taking that Muay Thai rhythm out where they're not in the pocket eating all these shots. And that's another thing I think with Shanelle Dyer. She's kind of used to being straight up and down and, being more offense and taking offense. But here in MMA, you got to watch that. You'll fall behind real quick. So, yeah, I just think she needs somebody to really help her with that MMA striking and just a little bit more of the boxing IQ to get her defense up and, her distance management up. But yeah, man, both fighters got a contract, so we'll see how this works out for the strawweight division. I really do hope that this forces Shanelle Dyer to make a lot of changes and to start getting that work in. But let me know in the comment section what y'all thought of the fight. Combo Breaker 99. Hit that like and subscribe. I'm out. Peace.